if you were gonna throw a racket, who would you throw it at?
I would huck a racket. Oh my gosh. Hey guys, I'm Jack Monroe, a professional pickleball player, and today I'm going to be answering your guys' questions. Okay, let's get into it.
What is the difference between a left side and a right side player?
So a left side player is typically going to be a lot more aggressive. We're seeing that change nowadays with players like Christian Alshon, Gabe Tardio, and even me. But yeah, the right side players are getting a lot more aggressive. Typically, it used to be left side players 60-40 in terms of court coverage compared to the right side player, but now the roles are becoming a bit more 60-40 based on a specific pattern for the left side player, and then 60-40 based on a specific pattern for the right side player. So I think the strategies now are drastically different than they were a year or two ago, where it's just left side person's always the alpha, right side person's always the beta. Now it's shifting based off of the patterns and where you are on the court. I think the left side player responsibilities, though, are still gonna affect the game a little bit more, just because you're covering a lot more of the court. So if you get in a rut, it's a lot easier to find you as a left side player. A right side player, you can still concede the middle while your partner can take that forehand. But yeah, other than that, I think that covers it.
How do you picture a pickleball pro's game style in 2 years from now?
2 years from now, I picture the ideal pickleball pro. The one thing that stands out is, there are a few things, but one of the things that stands out is the way they grip their paddle. Even though at the kitchen, a lot of instructors are teaching to just be in continental at the kitchen, these newer players, say for example like Hayden Patrick and these other players, even me, myself included, are in semi-eastern and eastern at the kitchen line, which means their forehand is going to be able to be a lot more aggressive. And so I'd say 2 years ago, continental grip is a handshake grip. So you hold your hand as if it was a handshake, put your paddle directly there, so there's no bias towards your forehand side or your backhand side. However, semi-eastern or eastern, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on your forehand side to get a lot more topspin on it. So you can see here, this is eastern, this is continental. So I think a lot more players 2 years from now are going to be even eastern at the kitchen line, because we're going to be seeing a lot more rolls and a lot more two-ies, and you can still close your grip on your backhand side when you're holding a two-ie. So I think we're going to see a lot more eastern grips at the kitchen line compared to where we were, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, when it was mostly just continental at the kitchen line.
What's your best piece of advice for your younger self that was aspiring to be a pro?
The best piece of advice I'd say to my younger self is focus on having a growth mindset, because just focus on the amount of work that you put in and less on winning. Because if you focus on winning, you're gonna lose. Pickleball, just like tennis, is one of those sports, Kyrgios said it best, where you're gonna lose every single week in, week out, because it's a bracket, single or double elimination. You're gonna be losing every single week. Even Ben Johns, they lose, it's not like football where you can go undefeated for the week. It's going to be a little bit different in that regard. So I would say, instead of focus on winning, just using your losses as experiences to learn, because that was one thing where it was like, I put a lot of pressure on myself at the beginning to win, and all it did was skew the results even worse. Compared to now, it's like I'm just focusing on learning and growing, and honestly, I'm fine if I lose, because if I lose, then I'm forced to take something out of it. If I win, then I don't really look back and reflect.
What's one interesting aspect of being a pickleball pro compared to other sports?
I would say the nuance of the game regarding coaches. So because pickleball kind of blew up over COVID, or it's been around, like for realsies the past like 5 years or so, there aren't like a Hall of Famer in '08 that's now like an amazing coach. The best coaches are players, are current players, and there aren't many retired players either. I can count all the very good professional retired players with one hand. So because of that, instead of you have to ask for strategy, mechanic, and just overall mindset advice just to the players around you that you're playing with, because there's no coaches that can actually do that to you because the sport's so new. So yeah, growing, I started out as like a 4-5 when I got back into this sport. And now I never really had a coach. And you expect all the other sports, you have a coach and you're paying for the coach, or they're a family friend, or whatever, you have a coach. Here, it's mostly like just bouncing ideas off of other pros, which can get annoying. You have to find a good set of pros, because some pros don't want to reveal all of their information, or else you're going to end up beating them a lot more at tournaments and stuff. But that's one thing that I honestly had to learn, because I came from basketball and baseball, which was not only team sports, but you had coaches.
Why do people tap the back fence before they start a point, like Zane?
So tapping the back fence actually has a very good reason. It's basically a mental reset button, and that helps a lot, whether you're playing socially or in tournaments, to just reset your mind. And as soon as you tap that fence, you're basically just shrugging everything off that just happened in the past or the point before, and now you're focusing forward on the next point. And whether that's spinning a paddle, whether that's flipping your paddle before every point, or just tapping the back fence, which is the easiest. You see Zane do it, you see John do it. That's the best way to mentally reset and look forward into the point, rather than worrying about the last point.
Do you have a 30-second trick that people can practice to increase their mental strength?
A 30-second trick or a 30-second hack to increase their mental strength. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like 30-second this and that, but one thing I would say to focus on is just conscious breathing. That helped me a lot. Conscious breathing is when you actually think about breathing in and breathing out fully, and it helps not only lower your heart rate, but it also helps you focus, because that's how I reset instead of tapping the fence. Is I actually just take in a deep breath, and because I'm consciously taking in that deep breath, I forget about what just happened, the point behind me, and now I have a clear mind and I'm just looking forward into the next point. And so that's an easy thing to do. As soon as you step on the court and you miss an easy ball, just take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out.
Should amateurs warm up before playing rec games?
For sure. Amateurs should definitely warm up before rec games, and this is something that I'm definitely not perfect at, nor any pro is. Trust me, you'd be embarrassed, or I'd be embarrassed to show you how we warm up. That's something that I'm going to take more seriously in 2025. But yes, amateurs should definitely warm up as well, and I highly recommend getting one of those big workout bands on Amazon to warm up your arms as well as your legs, just for 15-20 minutes before. And that's not like a huge ask. I mean, typically if you're a good person, you show up 10 minutes before anyways. So just show up 10 minutes before that, get your heart rate up with a little dynamic warm up, and then do some static stuff if you can. But yeah, that's how I try to warm up. I'm not perfect. That's something I'm going to improve on as well.
How many rackets have you thrown / broken?
So I actually grew up watching Rafa Nadal, and I was like, I've really followed his philosophy on the fact that I'm never going to throw a racket. My dad also imprinted on me to do the same, but I think that throwing a racket is disrespectful. It's not what you want to have as a brand. It's not what you want to have to show the people that are watching. And even though it shows that you're emotionally involved, it shows that you can't really control it. I understand that you're getting your emotions out, but personally, I've never thrown a racket, and I think that also helps my brand. I think that also proves to me mentally that I'm able to overcome situations without acting like a big baby. And yeah, that's something that I've promised myself, because I do not want to be known as the person who has an attitude on the court or gets mad when they lose. I get it, you're invested in the game, but you just can't let your emotions get to you.
All right, if you were gonna throw a racket, who would you throw it at?
I would huck a racket at Zane Navratil. Oh my gosh, all of his mom jokes that he makes. Yeah, I'd definitely I would 100% throw a racket at Zane Navratil. So thank you all for joining me. I'll make sure to do another one of these if you guys like it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. That's where I put these polls or questions in, so you guys can go ahead and fill them out.